Folks, welcome in to sportsbookreview.com. Is it March Madness? Yes, it's March Madness, but on a Wednesday afternoon, we will not be talking college football. We will not be talking college basketball. We are talking NFL offseason, and I'm excited about it here. I'm Donnie Seymour, he's Kyle Purviance. We are sportsbookreview.com, and this is your NFL team. What do we got, Kyle? Look, hey, vacation's coming, but you got to put in the work today.
That's right. Got to get the damn work in. Got to get to the grocery store, make sure the kid eats before I leave, all those important things that you have to do. But the best part for me, of course, we got March Madness happening, huge, the NBA, hockey, everything. This is probably the NFL season coming up that I'm most excited for. I feel like it's going to be the time when the world really starts to get back to normal. We're going to have full stadiums. We're not going to have to worry about anything. We're not going to have to wonder if the game is going to be played. So all the buildup to this NFL season is going to be huge. It's a really interesting offseason. Of course, a salary cap, $16 million less, a bunch of different things going on. We have a quarterback and a Pro Bowl quarterback in his prime available on the market. You don't see that very often. So it's important to me. It's exciting for me to talk football every week, get as much football as I can, because this is going to be, in my opinion, the most anticipated football season in a long time, just based on the construct of everything that's happened in the world. So I'm really looking forward to NFL 2021. And, of course, I love doing the shows with the best in the business, my guy, Donnie.
Yeah, it's fun here because I'm watching right now on, just that Dak Prescott we'll get to him in just a few moments, had the press conference with Jerry Jones re-signing with the Dallas Cowboys and the impact that they will actually have. So a lot of stuff already moving around in the offseason as we await free agency, the official free agency period over the next week and a half. All we saw yesterday was a lot of tags going down. So now you know who the free agent competitors are and how to move forward here. But I'll tell you who's moving forward. Sportsbookreview.com, 83,100 people have hit the subscribe button to this network. We are growing each and every day. That's a credit to you guys. If you haven't done so yet, if you're watching it live, if you're watching on replay, hit the subscribe button, turn your notification bells on. Whenever we go live, bringing you this content, you will get it delivered directly to your inbox. But it is March, Kyle. It says March 10th. We are in conference tournament time. Next week, we are going to have Selection Sunday this Sunday. Next week, the tournament. Sportsbookreview.com has you covered. You know why? Watch this video right here. We'll tell you why.
March Madness is just around the corner, and we at the Three Man Weave are here to tell you we have you covered. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel SBR Sports Picks, Matthew, for all your video needs.
Jim, if you want more, that's not enough. SPR also has a dedicated March Madness headquarters. You can find picks, videos, news, and an updated bracket over at sbrpicks.com/March-Madness, Kai.
All you have to do now is sit back, relax, and let the games begin.
Good part about that also, Kyle, is we still do have time to sign up for our March Madness contest right here with sportsbookreview.com. Get in the tournament. Why, Kyle? As we like to say on the show, if it's free, it's me. I know I'm in it because I signed up already. Kyle, are you procrastinating?
No. I'm in. I'm in the tournament. And like you said, if it's free, it's me. And listen, full disclosure, this has been the least I've ever followed college basketball in my entire life. Well. It 100%. Yeah, so I should do really, really well. And so I'll be relying on our guys from SBR and some other stuff from my guy Donnie there to do my picks because honestly, I don't even know a lot of these players. I think right now by long shot, just a little sneak peek, I think Texas is my long shot to come out and get in the Final Four. I love their athleticism, everything else. But again, my knowledge is very limited. I'll be relying on our guys over there at Sportsbook Review to help fill out my brackets.
Yeah, we got the experts. Everybody's here. Every single sport, we got it covered in mass right here on the channel. Let's get into some talk here. Nice little offseason, low pressure Wednesday afternoon. Let's get into it. Dak Prescott signed a monster contract. He bet on himself. I was actually surprised this deal got done. Not because I don't think Dak Prescott is a good quarterback, Kyle, but because for the future of the Dallas Cowboys, how much they're actually going to have to spend on Dak Prescott. Now, the good part about it, this is where the NFL is kind of crazy with salary cap structure, right? He was going to sign under the franchise tag, roughly, let's just say $38 million. That $38 million would be condensed into 2021. Then again, if you tag him again, or if he just becomes a free agent, or if you sign him, you get to accelerate it. So he drops that monster tag roughly in half, even though he signed a contract with a $66 million signing bonus and $126 million in guarantees. Good move for the Cowboys this year because they could lower that salary cap number. And you see a lot of guys getting cut already because we were anticipating a cap just 1 to 2 years ago of around $215 million. It's now $182 million. So any way you can save money, it does make sense. Dak Prescott did bet on himself. Dak Prescott is making a ton of money off the field and now a ton of money on the field. But what are we getting back for that return? First, I'll start with you, Kyle. Obviously, we know the Cowboys are the favorite here in the NFC East. But the grander scheme of things in the NFL is not let's win a lowly NFC East. It's can you get a Super Bowl? And if I'm paying $42 million a year to a quarterback, I better be in the top 5 in the NFL ready to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and it's kind of how the NFL works, right? It's not who the best player is who makes the most money now. It's who the latest guy up for a contract is, right? And so the only quarterback now making more money than Dak Prescott is Patrick Mahomes. And we'd all agree Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. I don't think you'd find anybody who says Dak Prescott's the second best quarterback in the NFL. And you mentioned this is huge for the Cowboys. And it's huge for Dak Prescott. He wanted the 4 years. The Cowboys wanted the 5 years. He got his way. They also, if you saw, of course you did, they had to sign him to an exclusive franchise tag. So once this 4-year deal is up, they are not able to franchise tag him again. That was a very interesting part of that contract, and I love that. Dak Prescott got everything he wants. His $66 million signing bonus is more than 3 Major League Baseball teams' entire payroll coming into the league. Pittsburgh, the Cleveland Indians, and the Florida Marlins all have a lower payroll than Dak Prescott's signing bonus. That is absolutely insane to me. It's great for Dak. It's a smart move by the Cowboys. You look even when you're starting to peruse through the draft, you see that you might have the 5 top picks in the draft all be quarterbacks. Teams are hungry for quarterbacks outside of those elite top, 6 or 7 guys. There's not a lot of great quarterback play, so it was a huge move by the Cowboys. You absolutely had to lock up Dak Prescott. And the funny thing to me, too, is kind of going back over that draft when they drafted Dak. Remember, they still had Tony Romo. They get him, 3rd or 4th round. They didn't even want him. They wanted Connor Cook. Jerry Jones was mad they didn't trade back up in the 1st round and get Paxton Lynch. Think about how laughable that is now as they're re-signing Dak Prescott. It's a great move for Dak Prescott. He got exactly what he wanted, and it's absolutely what you had to do to stay relevant in the NFC East if you're the Dallas Cowboys.
Now, here's the interesting part about the argument is because, it's a game of upsmanship, negotiations. We know the next quarterback in line, somebody's going to make just as much as Dak relatively quickly. That's just the way the market settles itself. But it's also like a return on your investment. It seems like the last maybe, let's just say decade or so, the way you used to win a Super Bowl was get a young quarterback, turn him out well. By the time he hits his 3rd year, he's a really good player, but still in his rookie contract making $2.5 million. Now you're upping these to these massive numbers, so it takes away from the rest of your team. Because I think Jerry Jones' thinking process along the way was pretty smart, saying, let's stretch Dak out as long as we can, but don't have to sign him long-term to see what we get. Because if you remember, he was leaking, because Jerry Jones is great. He'll tell you exactly what he feels. He goes on the radio, he give you a question, he answers it straight up. He basically said, and I agreed with it, Kyle, look, Dak, you're in a great spot. A, you're making a ton of money off the field because you're the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, the most powerful brand in the entire world. But B, look at what I'm giving you. A good offensive line, a great running back, a great group of wide receivers. I can get a lot of quarterbacks who could do well here. So you are benefiting from this, from me being able to pay everybody else around you so you succeed. Now it's time for Dak to cash in. So maybe you can't afford those guys and it lands on Dak. But as I said, this isn't like the Cowboys went to 3 straight NFC championship games, made a Super Bowl and won one. They haven't done anything. And he's got a monster contract now.
Yeah, and that's going to be the hard part for the Cowboys, right? They've spent all this money on offense. You mentioned it, those wide receivers, Cooper, Gallup, the rookie they just drafted last year, Lamb, all the stuff, the offensive line. But the problem with the Cowboys has been and will continue to be that defense. And then how do you put an elite defense on the field when you're spending $40 million a year on one position, especially this year in a cap-straddled year where the cap, instead of going up to 215 million, like you said, went down to 182 million. But and I think that's a valid point. How are they going to get better? The offense was great 2 years ago when Dak played every snap. They couldn't win the division. They were in a play-in game and got smoked by your Eagles. Their offense, he threw for over 5,000 yards that year. The offense was absolutely prolific. But when you can't stop anybody, you can't win anything. You might be able to sneak into the playoffs, all of the the Titans last year, et cetera. But you need That Cowboys defense was so bad last year, so they're going to have to get real creative. I think this is an important draft for them. They need to find guys who can come in there and stop the pass and stop the run. They were the worst run defense in the entire league last year. So the Dallas Cowboys, it's the right move. When you look at the landscape of the division, they now have locked up the best quarterback in that division. It's not even close. Again, we'll have to see what Jalen Hurts turns into. I mean, there is some upside for Jalen Hurts and some unknowns there that we just don't know. But he's the best quarterback in the division. It absolutely gives you a straight line to the division title if you can have somewhat of a competent defense. It's something that had to be done, but, it's a double-edged sword. You're absolutely right. They are now going to have to get creative and figure out a way to not only keep all these weapons around Dak, but they got to get a defense because that defense was so bad last year. I don't care if Dak didn't get hurt. If Dak was still healthy, I'm still not sure they win that division over Washington because they just couldn't stop anybody.
Yeah, we're going to be doing at least a show a week here in the offseason, priming and getting ready before you know it. Like we were crying, hey, Super Bowl's over. What are we going to do with the rest of our life? Well, life does go on. Before you know, we'll be kicking off again. And then next year at the Super Bowl saying, oh, my goodness, what are we going to do in the offseason? Now, it's an interesting year because we've already brought up twice here, $215 million we expected the cap to be at. It's down to 180. There's a lot of teams already under the cap, like the Jacksonville Jaguars. There are a lot of really good football teams like the New Orleans Saints that are way over the cap. A lot of really good high-priced veterans are going to get released. Now, here's also the key as well, which Dak sort of falls into. He actually helps the Cowboys. Well, Donnie, how's he help the Cowboys? Just signed for a $66 million signing bonus, $126 guaranteed, a monster deal. It's all about the cap number. These owners have billions of dollars. They care about how much can I squeeze into 1 year. So he goes from roughly $38 million to $22 million. Then you anticipate once you get the full houses back next year when the salary cap comes back, hey, Jerry's back to 125,000 people that he can squeeze into Jerry World down there. We're back to business. Not only is it going to be 215, it's actually 225. Now you have $40 to $50 million to play with. But here's where the crux of the point I'm getting to, specifically with the Cowboys and what we're going to be talking about here. You're having a lot of players that are going to go, why am I going to sign a long-term contract this year under the constraints of a salary cap where you technically can't fit me in and we're worried about what the future will be? You're going to have a lot of one-year mercenaries going, give me a one-year deal, $5 million. When it opens back up and I hit the market, I'm going to get my 5 years, $125 million, and we're all going to eat good. Some of these teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the New Orleans Saints, if they can get under it, you might get some dominant players at a cheap price like your 49ers did with Deion Sanders. Get me a ring, then get me my money.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of a situation that reminds me of the NBA. It was 6 or 7 years ago where their cap was going to go up exponentially with the new TV deals and everything. And so teams were trying, what comes to mind is Andre Drummond being a free agent and how, hey, if you sign Andre Drummond to 4 years, $70 million this year, it's going to be a great value next year because the cap is going to go up so much. So it'll be interesting to see if teams follow that pattern. It actually ended up where that was a bad idea and teams got themselves locked into these contracts that they couldn't trade away anymore. They got rid of the Keith Van Horn rule, so they couldn't do it anymore. So I wonder if they kind of look to the NBA just a little bit when they sort of had this similar situation where we know the cap's going to go up next year exponentially. After everything gets back to normal, the economics are back to normal. Owners are making the money that they want to make, and the NFL, more importantly, is making the money that they want to make. So they'll raise a salary cap. So do they spend what seems to be, more money on mediocre players like they sort of did in the NBA that year because they think it'll be more valuable next year? It's going to be really interesting to see. That's why I think this is going to be I swear to you, this is going to be the best NFL season in my lifetime outside of when my 49ers won the Super Bowl back in 1995. It was my favorite year.
Your team is probably going to be on the way up. The Niners, my team and the Eagles aren't looking on the way up. So I can say 2021 might not be that great of a full year here to try to get into it. But anyway, looking at these points here, it's very valid that you bring it up because you already saw the shift a couple years ago where the rookie salary cap changed because the number one overall draft pick who never played a down was getting $150 million and he might stink. And the vets are like, yo, I've been playing for 5 years. I'm a good player. I'm making $3 million. This bum just signed for $100 million guaranteed. And it's good that they refiltered that saying, all right, rookies, you're going to get some good money, but let's reinvest in our veteran players down the line, which brings me up to another point here. Those Los Angeles Rams, and it's great to talk about. We can't officially start talking about, team totals until we see schedules and who the free agents come through and the draft is. We'll be able to get that a little bit later down the line, later in the spring and also early in the summer to try to really hit on some of these team totals. But we can still look at the prognosis in the NFC West and what we anticipate the Rams to actually do. Looking at the live updated odds here, Rams about plus 175, the Niners 2-1, the Seattle Seahawks plus 280, and the Arizona Cardinals, J.J. Watt plus 550. I thought, they would be plus 550. They signed J.J. Watt, and then they're minus 175 to win the division. But obviously, us as handicappers know that, J.J. Watt, big name, doesn't make any difference. They're still the last place team in the NFC West, unless Russ forces his way out of Seattle for some odd reason. Then that's going to change. But the San Francisco 49ers at 2-1 always have my interest. But now, looking at the Rams, how many shows did we do last year, Kyle? I'm like, you know what? Love the offense. Love the offensive line. Love the coach McVay. He's going to dial up the game plan. But you know what, Kyle? Jared Goff's on that team. I can't bet it. It's no longer there. You know, week in and week out, like Matthew Stafford's going to do some boneheaded things, yes. But when he rolls out to the left and launches a 60-yard blazing missile, I'm going to get excited. Not Jared Goff rolling out and throwing a lollipop 7 yards on a 7-yard out. Yeah. Enough with that. I know the quarterback's going to play. The Rams get a huge bump from that. And people will still tell you, Kyle, well, man, Matthew Stafford never won anything. It doesn't. Let's see what he does with some weapons and a real coaching staff.
Yeah. The people that say that, he hasn't won anything, they don't understand how franchises work. The Detroit Lions are a damn trash can. I mean, plain and simple, they've been poorly run from the beginning. There's a reason why two all-time greats, Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson, retired after 9 years in the league because the team wouldn't let them out, and they said, there is no way in hell I am coming to play for this organization anymore. So, listen, Matthew Stafford is such a huge upgrade from Jared Goff, and if that defense stays anything close to what they were this year, they'll be the best defense in the league. They're going to have a great young running back who really came on at the end of the season and didn't take a lot of punishment because he barely played the first half of the year. Cam Akers only really started to get all those carries late into the year, week 12, 13, 14 in the postseason. So that kid's going to be fresh, ready to go. The LA Rams should absolutely be the favorite in the division. I actually do agree with that. I do think my 49ers can give them hell. The hard part of betting on the Rams right now is you're not getting a great number. Plus 190 in a future division bet. That's not all that great. That's not something that excites me all that much in March. I mean, I don't know how it excites anybody unless you're just a diehard Rams fan and you just can't wait to put your money on them, which I totally understand. I've also fallen victim to that sort of thinking as well. But that defense, so dominant. Matthew Stafford is night and day better than Jared Goff. They're actually going to have a vertical passing game. They have a good running game. They have a solid offensive line, assuming Andrew Whitworth comes back. It's hard to bet against the Rams, but you're right. It's impossible right now to say, are they going to win 11 games or 10 games or 12 games? And I have a suspicion that their number is going to be higher than it should be. Look, you mentioned it. The NFC West is the best division in football. Yeah. And if Russell Wilson remains with Seattle, which most likely he will, it'd be really interesting if he leaves, and that will shake up everything, of course. That's a tough division. You have a Cardinals team who's at the bottom right now, who nearly made the playoffs last year, and Kyler Murray really looks like this electrifying, real deal type of player with Hopkins, etc. Of course, you got the 49ers. We'll see what they do with the quarterback position. If Garoppolo is going to be the guy, do they draft a rookie? Do they trade for Deshaun Watson? And then Seattle is always going to be in it with Russell Wilson. So it's just a tough division. So it's hard to be like, oh, yeah, the Rams are going to win 11 games. Bing, bang, boom. Let's pencil them in. It's a tough division, so there's certainly some risk there. But I do think they are justifiably the favorite in the division. That defense is absolutely phenomenal. You might see two of the top 5 defenses in the league next year if everyone stays healthy, and the Rams and the 49ers in the same division. For me, it's going to come down to those two teams. It's going to be murder's row. It won't shock me if the team that wins that division is 10-6 and wins it on a tiebreaker just because of how tough that division is. But right now, I think the Rams do make sense as the favorite.
Yeah, if you're making some big moves in the NFL now, it's a shame because 2021 really isn't the season you want to do it. Not because you can't afford it and you still have a decent salary cap at around $182 million, but for teams like the 49ers, where you signed a quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo, and you're saying to yourself, well, if I move him, okay, in a normal year, if it was $215 million, I'll eat $30 million, no problem, and we'll just have a great football team. But now you're looking to make that next step into the 49ers saying, well, if we move on from Jimmy Garoppolo and pick up somebody else, like a veteran quarterback, a good player, I don't know who it's going to be, forget Deshaun Watson, but just like, a quarterback that's on the market that you may not have thought would be on the move, but makes a move out there. And I'd say, boy, the 49ers are really going to be in for it this year. This is a good move by them. I think they're held back a little bit. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a very good regular season quarterback. He can stack up wins because Kyle Shanahan's system gets everybody open, and he can deliver. 3-step drop, get the football out. He's fine with that. But that elite quarterback, like let's just say they were able to swing a couple of picks for Deshaun Watson, you automatically look at that and say they're now the team to beat in the division. Not because Deshaun Watson is so much better than Stafford, but now you have the explosiveness at quarterback where you have it all around in the 49ers offense, but quarterback, and you add that in. That's the only reason why I look at to shake it up, but also why I like to talk about 2021, where it's hard to eat. Like the Eagles are going to eat $40 million or roughly, and they already don't have enough talent anyway. So they're basically saying, hey, let's see what Jalen Hurts has this year. Next year, we'll have buku money and we'll get after it. But it's a wasted year, for the 49ers.
Yeah, and there's all the injuries and everything else as well. But you expect now with Bosa and everything coming back, and if they do get Deshaun Watson, they'd instantly become the favorite in the NFC. I mean, I don't think that's it takes that much thinking to get to that point. But we just don't know most likely what will happen. And, it's all very speculative at this point. But it won't shock me that the 49ers, they have a bunch of draft capital. They have a bunch of assets. Jimmy G, you mentioned it. They're not going to eat all that dead money and just get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo unless he's involved somehow in the Deshaun Watson trade. That's the only way he's going anywhere. So you'll probably see them move up in the draft. It will not shock me if they move up in the draft one of the 5 or 6 first-round quarterbacks, maybe a Mac Jones out of Alabama sort of makes some sense there if they're able to trade up to like the 8 or 9 spot and grab him if he's still available. And Jimmy G's going to be the guy. And you're right. He's going to be fine in the regular season. They're going to have Ayuk back and, hopefully a healthy Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, all the Bosa and Armstead and all those defensive linemen that were they were just battered by injuries. They set a new record for the amount of money they had on injured reserve in terms of contracts last year. It was over $80 million in contracts just last year on injured reserve. That should turn around this year. I certainly hope it does from a personal standpoint. That division's going to be tough, and that's why I'm not even though I love the Rams and I love that defense. That is by far, to me, the best defense in the league. As long as they can keep that defense somewhat intact and play. They lost their defensive coordinator. He went on to Brandon Staley went on to be the head coach of the Chargers. If they can play at that level next year with Matthew Stafford and all those weapons they have, and they're going to be a really, really tough team to beat. So I don't think you're crazy for betting on the Rams. But for me, if I'm in this futures division and I want to attack the NFC West, which for me is probably the most difficult to do so in, the Rams would be the bet. I think there's better value on the 49ers, just getting a few more cents on your dollar. But, Rams are going to be tough. Matthew Stafford's legit. He's legit and he's tough. He's going to play every down he can. He's going to throw for 4,000 yards. They got a major upgrade in Stafford, so the Rams absolutely should be considered the favorite.
And a major upgrade for Stafford offensively as well. You go from guys like Jim Bob Cooter over to Sean McVay, so we're going to see that really take off and have some fun. Some comments out of the chat box. Eric Chang, can we talk about my Jets Super Bowl bound? Maybe a Madden Super Bowl bound. Ryan Johnson said the Jared Goff is trash. And then this one I disagree with. The Colts are going to regret getting Carson Wentz.
I disagree.
Wentz is 5 times the quarterback that Phillip Rivers was last year. They will have a vertical game. They will have an outrageous offensive line, a dominant running game. Frank Reich calling plays again. He doesn't even have to be spectacular, and the offense will be spectacular. How about this? Reach back, drop back, 7-step drops. Phillip Rivers shot putting it 13 yards down the field. Wentz hitting missiles 60 yards downfield, stretching that whole field out. Great move by the Colts. I disagree with that one.
Oh, 100%. I don't even understand. I've heard a few people say that. It's like, what are you talking about? We have seen the upside of Carson Wentz. We've seen it. MVP level. And it was really unfortunate for him that he got hurt and then he went on to win the Super Bowl, which would piss me off too. It would absolutely drive me.
How do you rock the ring? Like, you won a Super Bowl. You were a huge star. You were the best player in the NFL, but you weren't on the field in the Super Bowl. Like, you put the ring on and it's like, at least like a special teamer puts that ring on like, I won this bad boy. Offensive line, defensive line, running back, wide receiver. I won this bad boy. The backup quarterback, this looks nice, but boy, I would like to play it.
Oh, yeah. No, it reminds me of I played in this little golf best ball tournament and my buddy was on my team and he sucks at golf. He's never even come close to beating me. Well, that day he was just on his game. And I remember we left the course and we played okay. And everyone was like, oh, your buddy played really well. And I'm like, that guy? Are you kidding me? That guy? No, he sucks. And he's one of my best friends. And I felt bad having to talk shit about him. But it had to happen to tell him, no, he sucks at golf. He had one lucky day. That's how I feel. Carson Wentz on the Colts, the arm strength, the athleticism. Look, on the occasion that the pass protection breaks down or they have some injuries on the offensive line, Carson Wentz has already proven it time and time again. He will go get you 3 yards on 4th and 3. He will take the hits. He'll risk his body. He's more athletic, stronger arm. To me, the Colts got a big upgrade, and they got it at a value. I thought it was a mistake for the Eagles to let Wentz go in favor of Jalen Hurts. But I guess, well, we'll just have to continue this debate next year as the season goes on. But it will shock me if the Colts regress on offense and don't progress on offense next season.
Colts team total overs, be going over those each and every Sunday here when we do the closing line, one of my favorite shows that we do. And it's amazing. We did so many of them. Obviously, you get all the weeks through, and it's like, man, I really missed that stuff. But coming soon, before you know it, we'll be having preseason, which we didn't even have last year. So some added bonuses once we get some people back in the building and some extra games, and also a 17th week. Who's complaining about having a 17th game? Certainly not me. But there are some other sports that, for some reason, don't want extra playoff teams in. We'll just leave that for another day at that point. Let's talk some NFL draft talk, because it's coming up quickly here. We don't have a combine, which to me, I think helps every single organization, because it says, hey, I watched 3 years of tape on this guy. I don't think he's that good. But you know what? I went to Indianapolis. You should have saw him run that 5-yard cone drill. I love this player. You're like, wait, come on, man. Yeah. Pop the tape on. You can either play or you can't play. So the fact that they can't see these guys running in spandex, every team across the league should help, because, hey, let me make a decision on this guy. Well, he ran really fast. Yeah, but he's not a good footballer, but he ran fast. Okay, let's elevate him to a 2nd-round pick as opposed to a 6th-round pick. Get out of here with that nonsense. So the running back position is usually left for dead. No one ever signed running backs. Use running backs up. Go ahead, take wide receivers and quarterbacks and offensive line, but you can always find a running back late. Taking a look at the draft board, the first guy's off. There's 2 of them that you're squaring up right now. I don't think you can go wrong. Like, you just say, oh, this guy's far and away. You got to take this guy. Or Adrian Peterson. He's so far and away better than any running back in this draft. Najee Harris is sensational. Travis Etienne is sensational. So I ask you first here, Kyle. Najee Harris, minus 105 to be drafted first at running back position in the NFL draft. Travis Etienne not far behind at plus 130. I don't know how you can, I don't know. This is really, really close to me. I've loved the ETN, but if you go with the old adage, Najee Harris is a man-child. He played in the SEC and dominated. I hear you on that. But Travis Etienne on a swing pass where he just gets full blast downfield is something to watch. How many times did you watch Clemson with a read option play where he goes right up the middle, doesn't get touched for 75 yards in a sprint? Now, the key is doesn't get touched. Who are we taking? Najee Harris, grinded it out, steal, jumps. He was amazing this year. Who are you taking?
It's tough, and I really think this is going to be decided on the draft order. Like, if Buffalo was drafting ahead of a team like Pittsburgh or Green Bay, then I would say Travis Etienne, because I think he fits perfectly in that offense for Buffalo. Can you imagine Buffalo drafting Travis Etienne saying, we're done with this 50-50
That's all they were missing, man. That's all they were missing.
Like Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, you both suck. See you later. We'll throw Zach Moss in once in a while in the red zone, have some fun. You add a guy like Travis Etienne, just perfect for that offense, that spread offense, that sort of run and shoot Lorenzo White role from the Houston Oilers back in the 90s, right? I love that role. But in this draft, the Steelers are drafting ahead of Buffalo, and I do think, and I'm actually looking at Todd McShay's mock draft right now, and I think he nailed it right on the head. When you look at teams in the NFL who truly need a running back, a running game to get to that next level, you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. James Conner is slower than my grandmother, for Christ's sake. James Conner, love the story, very inspirational, everything else, but he stinks. And then they were running out, Jaylen Samuels and Benny Snell Jr. I think Najee Harris makes a ton of sense. You're bringing back Ben Roethlisberger for one more year. You realize you cannot run that offense like you ran it last year. It can't be this, 3-yard pass and a cloud of smoke.
You need explosion out of the backfield. The Steelers were dead on arrival at that.
They were dead on arrival. And I think Najee Harris, now, would Steelers fans complain if they drafted Travis Etienne there? Of course they wouldn't. But it just feels like Najee Harris, same school. Doesn't he remind you so much of Derrick Henry? He even looks like Derrick Henry. He has the same smile. I swear to God,
he's actually a better overall. Derrick Henry's a man. He's just a different caliber because of how big he is. But if you want to talk a guy that has the speed, the cuts, the ability where you're jumping over people, standing straight up, he's an amazing athlete, Najee Harris.
and amazing out of the backfield, excellent hands out of the backfield. It just makes a ton of sense. And when as you just kind of go through the draft order and you look, who else is really reaching for a running back? I don't see it anywhere else in the league. I can't even really think of another team that would, barring some sort of, like weird offseason injury, falls down the stairs or something like that. There's not really a team that stands out outside of the New York Jets, which it's obvious they've got so many other things to worry about that they're going to have to worry about quarterback and other things. I mean, the Jets, I don't even know who their running back will be next year. Do we have any idea? Is it going to be Frank Gore again? Jaylen Adams, is it going to be the LaMichael Pirine? Probably not. So that the only team that I could see sort of being a wild card and maybe using some of their capital to move ahead of, if the Packers are unable to keep Aaron Jones, they'll have a need there, even though I think A.J. Dillon looked pretty good and can do some things there for the Packers, the Steelers, and the Bills. Those are the three teams that really stand out to me. They're late in the draft, so it's just going to be which one they like better. I think if I'm looking at Pittsburgh, I think Najee Harris is the guy that makes the most sense. So I do. If he's not taken, then in my opinion, it will be Travis Etienne to Buffalo if he's not gone earlier. But you're going to see these running backs late in the first round. We've seen this year after year. Joseph Gomez makes a great comment, and Arizona could reach as well. I guess that's one wild card team too, who could use a running back after the whole Kenyon Drake, Chase Edmonds thing last year, whatever the hell they were doing. But he just sort of fits in. A power back, can handle all usage, just this big, tough guy. That's the Pittsburgh identity. So I think Najee Harris to the Steelers at 24, even though I'm biting off a little bit off of this mock draft here from McShay, it makes a ton of sense to me.
No, it makes even more sense because Ben Roethlisberger's your quarterback. You didn't have those explosive plays where he wants to get the ball out quick or, just the ability just to hand off and pick up a 25-yard gain out of the backfield is certainly going to be huge. And I love the fact that most teams don't draft running back. Look at these luxury picks at the end of the first round. Like when Clyde Edwards-Helaire went to Kansas City, like the team is stacked. Let's just add a really good running back on top of it because you do get these stalwarts say, don't ever draft a running back round 1, 2, or 3. Find them 4, 5, and 6. But the really good football teams that are complete say, look, I'm going to get a really good young back, and okay, I'll use them up over 4 years. Thank you for playing for us, and I'll let you loose. But those 4 years should be explosive before you go Dallas Cowboys, give Zeke Elliott a monster contract. Like, boy, Zeke doesn't even look like the best running back now on the Dallas Cowboys. We'll see how it plays out, but it's an interesting thing, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of, rumors spilled out by teams that actually want to pick Travis Etienne or Najee Harris saying, hey, had him in for a workout, wasn't that quick? And then like, I hope he falls because we really want to take him. But it's an interesting look at overall the running back position, which you have the two guys at the top of the heap, two really good football players, and we'll see where they land. Talking about good football players here and keeping it with the draft, Kyle Pitts or Jaylen Waddle. And Kyle Pitts was so dominant at Florida last year, but he's a tight end, right? So you sort of downgrade the position. Like, he's a man-child. He's going to be a great NFL player. But as you start rolling through to the draft, you say, now, wait a second here. How many teams go to the tight end position and have a George Kittle, have a Travis Kelce, have a dominant tight end, and look what a difference maker they can be opening up your offense. And here comes Kyle Pitts storming up the draft board. It's perfect point of conversation for me being an Eagles fan. Why? All we have our eyes set on is wide receiver. And the pundits are coming and saying, now, hold on here. If you're at 6, this guy can transcend that position and be a difference maker like a Travis Kelce. So I'm going to ask you first, Kyle, when you're talking in these levels, not like, hey, he's going to be a converted tight end. He played at North Dakota State. He was a basketball player. Let's see what he has. Okay, maybe that works out. But you're talking about a plug-and-play tight end who's as good as skill-wise as a wide receiver in a tight end's body. He's going to be a top 10 pick here. And the question that we have is Pitts or Waddle. Now, before I give you the microphone here, if the Raiders had the first draft, they would go Waddle for no apparent reason, just like they went Henry Ruggs, which we all got a good laugh at. I don't know what they do, but we're going to take the Raiders out of the equation and say, if you're the GM of a football team, and forget about if you already have wide receivers or tight ends, who are you going with, let's just say, with the Eagles, number 6 overall pick, if you had Jaylen Waddle on the board or Kyle Pitts here?
Oh, boy, it's so tough. So you look at this, and you're. It's so funny you say that about the Raiders. I'm trying to remember that. Who's that receiver they took over Michael Crabtree just because he could run fast?
No, it wasn't Troy Williamson. Who was it? Who was that?
God, you know who I'm talking about.
Somebody in the chat box will bring it up there. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. the same draft as Michael Crabtree. The 49ers, of course, we ended up getting lucky in getting him, but the Raiders just took the speedster and he didn't do shit with his career, and that's what the Raiders do. And I think Al Davis was still alive back then, so that's probably why all that happened. But this one's tough. So you look at the Eagles and you ask yourself, are they going to try to continue the same formula they've had in years past? And if they are, they're going to take Kyle Pitts. Look, they run 2 tight end sets more than any other team in the league. I believe it was 35% of their offensive snaps. They ran 2 tight ends, by far the most in the NFL. And they could use either one. They just need to decide who's the best weapon here. The benefit, so if you're doing the wager, you're doing the bet, Waddle or Pitts. Well, Kyle Pitts is by far the number 1 tight end on the board, is the only one even considered in the first round, while Jaylen Waddle is going to be second, third, fourth wide receiver off the board. You've got Devontae Smith and Jamar Chase and all these other kids. So he's not even the top wide receiver on the board. This is going to come down to how does Doug Peterson and the rest of that organization feel that day. I would lean Kyle Pitts, and I have to admit, when I first started this, I'm like, well, the odds say it's going to be Waddle. Like, how often is a tight end taken in the first round? And then you really watch the tape on this Kyle Pitts kid, and you're like, man, he's awesome. Now, I actually do kind of wonder, just kind of being the asshole that I am, just for fun, is he under a little more scrutiny than normal, being a tight end from Florida and being so talented? Are they going to look into his background a little more because of the Aaron Hernandez debacle? And, that's sort of been a big show on Netflix and all that other stuff. So you wonder, are they going to dig into his background a little more just to make sure they're not bringing on, a psychopathic serial killer, It's important to do, which, interestingly enough, Aaron Hernandez is not guilty of any of those things because he died, but that's a whole nother show. But no, I think it's Kyle Pitts. I think it makes a ton of sense. This guy can line up in the slot. We've seen dynamic offenses. Look at the Chiefs, 2 straight Super Bowls. Who's the most important part of that offense outside of Mahomes? I know we love Tyreek Hill, but Travis Kelce's an absolute monster. You look at the 49ers, who went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, riddled by injuries. It was George Kittle. So those sort of, transcendent type talent at that position, there's not many of them. You would say Kittle, Kelce, and then I guess to a lesser extent, Darren Waller for the Raiders, I suppose. Kyle Pitts can be that guy. So I do think it makes a ton of sense. And it wouldn't, if the Eagles don't take him there, I think they might trade down and try to get more assets and maybe build up that offensive line. The secondary, there's a lot of positions where the Eagles need help. I mean, let's
and it's funny you bring that up, because I always disagree with that philosophy. You stink for a reason. They don't give you a choice of saying, hey, you know what? If you're a bottom 5 football team, we'll just give you 4 third-round picks, and that's what you get. Oh, great, we can build our team around. You stink. Yeah. The reason why you're in the top 10 is because you stink, and the good players, or supposedly good players, are in the top 10. Stay in the top 10. Now, we had, Kyle Pitts, Jaylen Waddle. We're going to have other shows here, and I don't want to spoil the fun, but eventually we're going to talk about a first wide receiver off the board. And I'm just going to make one quick point on this. Only in America can one kid go out and play football for an entire year, absolutely dominate, win a ring and the Heisman Trophy, and a kid who did not play is actually favored to go before that guy. We love tearing people down, specifically even like, Trevor Lawrence, who's been so good that now all of a sudden you say, like, ooh, I don't know if he's even the best quarterback. I mean, stop the madness. Stop the madness. But I don't want to ruin any future shows here, but you see how passionate we're going to get in these future shows coming up.
So true.
Yeah, it is.
It's crazy. Who do you prefer? Just being an Eagles fan, do you want Pitts or you want Waddle? Which way would you go as a fan?
I wouldn't go Waddle. I would rather, we're assuming that Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith are off there. I would not go Jaylen Waddle because, I love speed. We all love speed. He's a really good football player. But when I'm at that position, I don't want the third best wide receiver off the board. I want a transcendent player who can hit the ground running with a young quarterback and be that safety blanket. I actually would rather have Pitts. So if this doesn't work out, Waddle's a stud, we erase the tape and we just keep it moving, as we like to say. Let's talk a little bit of Atlanta Falcons here before we close out the show. Going quarterback at number 4 or not? The adage around the league, which is a true one, when you're in the top 5, you're usually not there. And you're usually there because you have subpar quarterback play or you're ready to move on from an older quarterback, Matt Ryan, 35 years old. The question, though, is you're not going to get, Trevor Lawrence. So you're feeling back on a BYU kid. You're looking at a kid from North Dakota State. And, we could take a run at a kid from Ohio State. And what are we going to do here? I honestly believe they should take a quarterback, but I'm not mad if they just try to stack talent and say, look, we're making you be able to get a year or 2 out of Matt Ryan, clear his cap space out. We'll either go after quarterback or we'll be bad and we'll draft another one. top 5, it's hard to pass on quarterbacks because they are there. But I'm not just taking a quarterback at 4 because I'm at number 4.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, how you said that, because I completely agree. Look, let's look at the defending Super Bowl champions. Yes, Tom Brady is the GOAT, the greatest of all time and all. But look what his physical limitations were last year. They're not much different than Matt Ryan, right? Not the greatest deep ball. You don't have the weakest arm. You're a veteran, decision-making. Brady had the benefit of better coaching, better offensive line, a better defense, obviously. But when you look at, Tom Brady and the Buccaneers just proved you can win a Super Bowl with a guy who's stationary in the pocket and is just, the sort of veteran presence. So the real question is are there one of these guys that are just flying off the radar? Is Arthur Blank just losing his mind? Is the new coaching staff losing their mind? Like, none of us expected the Eagles to trade all that for Carson Wentz a few years back, right? No one saw that coming. No one. I know I didn't. I was completely thrown off the radar. So we never know what's actually going on inside these little war rooms, as they call them, for the teams. But I'm with you. I think it'd be a mistake for them to do it. I know they're number 4, and you never expect or plan on being a top 4 draft pick. You never want to be in that situation. But when I look at the Atlanta Falcons, there's another team that could use a running back. I mean, what are you going to do? They already got rid of Todd Gurley. There's another team now that would be insane to draft a running back there. So if I'm the Falcons, I trade this pick down and I get as much capital as I can because I need to work on that defense and I need to work on that offensive line. And hey, I might need another explosive receiver because maybe we're tired of being held hostage by Julio Jones' hamstring every damn week of the season. You get, 11 healthy quarters a year out of Julio Jones, and that's what's giving you your sort of viability on the offensive end. So maybe they want to go that route. Now, it won't shock me if they do. You got 4 options if they do. Do they trade up? Are they just in love with Zach Wilson so much, as a lot of people think the Falcons and possibly the Jets are? Do they move up to get this kid out of BYU? I don't know if that makes much sense. Do they go up? Like, for me, if I'm going to trade up, I'm going to take the guy with all the athletic ability too and the raw talent. I would want a guy like Justin Fields. Do they see that much in Justin Fields? I think around, like, you hear like the pundits, etc., they think that Trey Lance could end up here. Another North Dakota State guy could end up with Atlanta. I think it's a mistake if they do it. I understand why they would, and I get the pressure to take a future quarterback. But again, you don't have to have that. I think Matt Ryan, I don't think there's much difference right now as we sit today between the physical skills and the mental skills of Tom Brady and Matt Ryan. You just saw your division rival win the Super Bowl with an immobile, stationary quarterback making decisions out of the pocket. Why not build up this defense? Why not build up that offensive line? That's what I would do if I'm the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I still think they need to wait on that. But, I mean, Justin Fields would invigorate that franchise. I mean, they loved Michael Vick down there. He would be a boost in the arm. Kid from North Georgia. So that looks like a move that they could possibly make as they turn the page. But then again, you're not just going to give Matt Ryan away. You can't really get rid of him. It's a monster dead cap hit. So again, when we talk about the cap where we usually have about another $40 million to deal with, you can make these decisions free and fast and quite easily because you can recover. This is one of those years that makes it tough. Like, you go out and draft, Justin Fields. He's not sitting on the bench behind Matt Ryan. And what are you going to do? Put Matt Ryan on the bench making all that money? You're going to cut him loose and say, well, we'll just pay you to get out of here. That's not the way the NFL works for the most part. We're like, you talk about the NBA. Hey, buy him out, get him out of here, go with whatever team you want. That's not the way it works in the NFL. So it's an interesting dichotomy for what the Falcons have. Tough prospects because in that division, you think the Carolina Panthers got a lot of money, going to get better. The New Orleans Saints still got Sean Payton. They're going to have a good football team. You have the Super Bowl champion in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that leaves the Atlanta Falcons with not a lot of juice and an older roster. Yeah. We'll see what happens at number 4 overall, but it was nice talking football, man. 45 minutes here on a Wednesday. Prepping you throughout the offseason. We'll be back doing this again next week with a lot more hot topics to go over as we inch closer to free agency and also the NFL draft. And before we know it, into OTAs and the summer, we'll be talking pre-season football. Kyle, I know you got a vacation and early night, so we wanted to get you out of here a little bit earlier. Bump the show up to Wednesday earlier in the afternoon because we know we're getting old and we need our naps before we take flights.
That's 100% correct, and I'm terrified of flying too, so I'm going to be a giant coward. I'm going to be tired, probably pretty drunk. That's what I have to do, and that's going to be the plan. But I love talking football, and it's always an honor and a pleasure for me to work with my dude, Donnie, who I believe to be the best in the business. So this is always fun, and I appreciate you all joining the chat box. Hope you have a good weekend betting on college basketball this weekend.
Yeah.
And just real quick to touch on that, that's why I think Trey Lance makes some sense. He could sit behind Matt Ryan, right? Like, let Matt Ryan play because he's a little bit of a raw sort of talent, needs some work. So maybe he can make some sense. But, vacation time. I love you all. I appreciate all the hard work, and always a pleasure being with you, of course, Donnie.
All right, that'll do it. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. We are sportsbookraview.com, and this was a Wednesday NFL show during March Madness. You got it. We'll see you next week. Good luck on your wagers.